I'd like now to turn to Kristian Bartholin from the Council of Europe. Kristian, the discussion already about international cooperation and the synergies between different jurisdictions gives you a great entry point, but update us on the Council of Europe's work, please.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for inviting me to participate today in this panel. I must also make a very brief apology at the beginning. I came late because I was arriving late with my plane from a conference I was attending yesterday in Lisbon, also an AI, but I hope that you will still bear with me on this. Yes, indeed, I would like to take up what Mr. Tudorache was mentioning before, namely the need to reach out from Europe to other jurisdictions and how we ensure that we can all work together within a framework. And that is actually something that the Council of Europe has been working on for the last 2 years. Since 2022, we started negotiations on a new framework convention on artificial intelligence and human rights, democracy and rule of law. Now, of course, our focus is not on the market regulation. Our focus is on the protection of human rights, upholding the rule of law and protecting also that the democratic processes. But we are essentially looking at the more or less the same kind of top 10 high-risk AI applications at the end of the day. Very often there's a huge overlap between what the AI Act will deal with in this regard and what this convention is out there to try to regulate. Now, to give you a very brief overview, on the 14th of March 2024, the Committee on Artificial Intelligence of the Council of Europe, for which I have the honor of being the secretary, successfully finalized the negotiations of the draft framework convention that I mentioned before. In addition to the member states, there are 46 of them in the Council of Europe. 27 of them are also the member states of the European Union. We had Argentina, Australia, Canada, Costa Rica, the Holy See, Israel, Japan, Mexico, Peru, the United States of America, and Uruguay, all participating actively in these negotiations. So this is an international treaty. It's not just a European regional treaty, but it has the potential to become a global treaty. The European Union, of course, was also there. It was represented by DG Connect, that represented the member states. And then we had, in addition to that, around 70 representatives of civil society, industry, academia, and international regional organizations that we usually work with, including United Nations, the OECD, and all of these we contributed to shaping this new treaty in a way which I would still say is rather participatory and as inclusive as was possible to do in international negotiations. The treaty has been adopted last Friday by the Committee of Ministers at the level of the ministers themselves, the Ministers of Foreign Affairs, on the 17th of May. And it will be open for signature and ratification in Vilnius in Lithuania on the 5th of September 2024. So this is really also going very fast. Maybe I should say here that what we should bear in mind about the relationship between the AI Act and this convention, to give an idea, is that the AI Act, of course, is replacing domestic legislation in the 27 member states of the European Union concerning AI, and especially but not exclusively, the internal market parts. There are also parts in the AI Act that deal directly with human rights related issues and rule of law related issues. But this would be like domestic law. As you know, in international law, we have the domestic law through which international law is implemented. And it is our understanding that the Commission will use in particular, but also some other acts, the AI Act, as the implementation of their obligations that the European Union is likely to undertake under the Convention. Now, the Framework Convention is, of course, important because it provides a level legal playing field between different jurisdictions. And we put a great emphasis on ensuring that different jurisdictions can, in fact, coexist within the framework of the convention, and that they will be able to assist each other, to work together, to exchange information, to cooperate on how to deal with the many challenges that AI is going to bring to the way we organize ourselves, our lives, our societies in the future. And I think that that is sort of, in some ways, in addition to the summits that were mentioned before, which are incredibly important. I think it's also very important to have a legal framework that actually can be adhered to, which ensures that the parties to the convention will come together on a regular basis to discuss issues of common interest, and will also see how globally you can follow up on the developments in AI in the market, and on how it is being used, not just in the market, but also by the states in particular. That's a particular concern of us. Now, the Framework Convention's rules, and I think that's an important thing to underline here, will be applicable to the states in their relations with their citizens, but it will also be applicable. State parties will also undertake to apply the same principles vis-a-vis AI systems that are originating from the private sector. So not just public sector AI systems, but also private sector. And some of the principles that we will find that are now being really put down on paper in this convention are respect for human dignity and individual autonomy, transparency and oversight, accountability and responsibility, equality and non-discrimination, privacy and personal data protection, and last but not least, reliability requirements and safe innovation requirements. And I think that this is important to bear in mind, that this is the first time that we at global level or at international level, as a very minimum, will have these principles laid out in a legally binding manner. And to come back to the ethics part, I am certainly a great believer in ethics. I think that when it comes to addressing the problems that we face with new and emerging digital technologies, ethics is a very important part of that. But as a lawyer, I also prefer to have something that is, let's say, rights and obligations that I can actually go to court with to protect my situation, and not just an ethical framework. The ethics are underpinning and should always be underpinning the law. And there will be, as was also very rightly pointed out by you, Robert, and by several of the previous speakers, there will be situations where something will be lawful in principle, but maybe unethical. And that is, of course, the area where ethics will play an even bigger role. But in general, I will say that we would have to be really looking at this like we look at any other part of the way we deal with societies. Some things are ethical, and these do not usually pose problems. If there are unethical practices, they cannot always be unlawful. We can then try to deal with them as a society. We do already do that in many other areas. But when it comes to really grave, serious risks, ethics cannot stand alone. There we need legal protection. And this is what this convention will hopefully provide, not just in Europe, but across the world, among like